Hello, Anna. Very warm welcome to you. I've got all the windows open in here at the moment. Very, very warm welcome to you for our seventh Bat Chat. And I am joined by the wonderful Jane Deeks today to give a little bit of insight into a perhaps unconventional route into the world of professional services and VAT. Before we kick off, just a little introduction. What is the VAT Chat about? Well, whether you're at the start of your career, you're partway through, you work in VAT, you don't, you're just interested in what those people get really, really excited about over on the indirect tax side of things, this is for you. Just a quick half an hour chat with a wonderful practitioner in the world of VAT and indirect taxes to give you a bit of an insight into how they got here, why they stayed, and what's next. So, enough about that. Jane, I don't like to give too much of an introduction because I don't want to spoil any surprises. But if you could just start by telling us, how did you find yourself in the world of VAT and what's kept you here?
Well, I originally come from the fun fair. So my parents were showmen, my great grandparents, and we travelled about the country during the summer months, and we only had a couple of months in the winter time when we were settled, and that's when I went to school. But I only went to school for 2 months in the winter, from the age of 5 to the age of 12. And then at the age of 12, because the plan was I carried on in the fairground business, I didn't need any more education. Things have changed nowadays, but back then that's how it was. And and then when I got to the age of 17, I had been reading a book about you and the law, and I was a bit bored with the fairground lifestyle. Social life, fantastic, loved it. Such a fantastic close-knit community. But actually just minding the stall, and a lot of the time we didn't have very good fairs that we went to, so we was quite poor at the time. And I just read this book about the law and thought, you know what, I'd like to be a solicitor. I could read and write, I could add up. So I thought I'd be able to do that. So I asked my parents if they was okay with me to do that, and they was fabulous. So I saved up, bought myself a little cheap touring caravan, really cheap. And when my parents went off travelling, I stayed at the winter quarters and went to night school. I've got a fly flying around me. Went to night school and did my GCSEs, even though I was advised not to do GCSEs because of the minimum amount of schooling I'd had, about 18 months worth of schooling in my entire life. They thought the best thing to do would start with basic maths and English. But I like to throw myself in the deep end, and I was like, "Oh, no, I can read and write. I don't need basics that. I just need to get my GCSEs done." So I did. Then went on to do my A levels at college, and then ended up in university studying law. All intentions of becoming a solicitor until I moved on to the legal practice diploma. And at that point, PricewaterhouseCoopers came and did a presentation to us. What I found out later, they call the milk round. So they tried to encourage the legal trained people to become tax advisors. Now, I'd really enjoyed tax at university. I'd done a little bit of tax in one of the modules, and I'd also done a couple of modules on tax when I was studying for the LPC. So it was something I was really interested in. And the fact that all my friends and family were self-employed and obviously was having to deal with tax, it was something I was interested in. And then when I found out, so this new job, it's just appeared, didn't even know it existed. You can be a tax advisor. Wow. And then I find out, which this is the best bit, the starting salary as a trainee chartered tax advisor with PwC was £6,000 more than the starting salary as a trainee solicitor. So that was basically a no-brainer. Well, I'm going to apply for this job and see what happens. Personally, I didn't actually think I'd get it. But at the time, PwC was the largest accountancy firm in the world. And little old me applies for this graduate traineeship, of which there were 16 places in the entire country, and I guess thousands of people applying. But I got chosen to go to these group interviews, these psychometric testing days, partner interviews, and I went over about 2 or 3 days going backwards and forwards to PwC
Wow.
in Birmingham. And I actually did shocking on the psychometric tests, but I just think that's because it's not something I've ever done before. I've never even heard of them before. And I think if you can train yourself, you could probably do really well on them.
Yep.
But fortunately, they saw more potential in me than just these cyber tests, and they offered me a job as a graduate trainee in the VAT department of their Leicester office at the time. And I started in September 1999, and it was really exciting. First time in my life I've had to go to work in a suit. Um, and yeah, it was great. And the firms at that day and age as well was quite affluent. So we were being taken out for lunch all the time. We got took on trips to Amsterdam, to Dublin. And yeah, it was very exciting. And then I thought, I'm not sure VAT is going to be that interesting. There's output tax and input
Mm.
tax is 20%. Little did I know, wow, 27 years later, I'm still learning something new every day.
That's amazing. So is that I guess part of the reason then why you've stayed the course with VAT? That
Absolutely.
that is that kind of new learning and or is that are there other aspects as well?
Well, there are other aspects, but yeah, I think I do get bored very easily. I'm one of those people that I like watching telly, but I can't just sit and watch a television program. I have to be ironing or doing something else at the same time. So yeah, with VAT, because it is so complex and it's forever changing, and you can have one of my other colleagues, VAT colleagues, we could have a good discussion about something and we could both disagree, but our opinions would still be both right because that's how the legislation is. And yeah, and because you're learning something new, I never get bored with it. And the other thing that I love about it is because it's transactional, you have to know exactly what the client's doing. So a lot of the time when I have a new client meeting, I feel like I'm interrogating them because I'm asking, oh, why have you done that? What happened there? Why did that? Where did that go? Which country did that one go to then? And you need to know every single transaction. So you get to understand the business and learn about the business. And I've learned about some really interesting businesses over the time. I mean, one that always stood out to me was I got a query about, can you tell me the VAT liability of a pig? And I'm like, right. And this pig goes out to some oil rig in the North Sea. And I'm like, why are they sending pigs to an oil rig in the North Sea? Anyway, it turns out it was the name of this device. It wasn't a real pig. Yeah, there was these devices that go through the oil rig tunnels,
Hmm.
and they check for any cracks or dents or anything wrong with the pipes. And then this thing round them, this material thing that protects the thing that collects all the data, is called the pig. So yeah, but I'd have never known something like that existed if I wasn't doing this job. And then I won't go into much detail, but when I first discovered OnlyFans, I'll tell you that was a bit of a shock because when the accountant rang me up and said, I've got this query about this platform, um, and it's like it's a sales platform where people put content on. I'm like, oh, okay, well, send me a link to it. I'll have a look, and then I'll get back to you. And so yeah, a bit of a shocker. But, that was a few years ago now, and everybody knows who OnlyFans are. But
They're not quite Etsy or something like that, online
which is
sales.
what I was expecting. So naive. That's what I expected. Yeah, and then I saw these used socks being sold, and things like, oh, this is weird.
And then you're looking at the VAT legislation, which is, fairly it's been around for a while, and trying to then apply that to the world that we live in now.
Yes, which is always very interesting. Yeah, yeah. And sometimes it is so difficult. And I guess that's why there's so much case law because HMRC's, no offense to HMRC, but their guidance isn't always as clear as they seem to think it is. And then, like you say, trying to apply archaic legislation to modern day situations can be a bit tricky. But then again, that's the fun of it.
And I think that I don't know if you feel this way as well, but because you've got that initial legislation, and as time goes on, things are kind of tweaked and they're sort of tagged on and around. So then sometimes you get the interactions of the things that are already there with the new things as well,
Yeah.
and sometimes unintended consequences of the two.
Absolutely, yeah. And then when you've got international VAT, so at the minute now with like electronically supplied events and things, we've got a situation now where under UK law, the event is likely to be in the UK, but under EU law, it's also going to be in EU law. So there's going to be a double taxation situation. So we're having to deal with that at the moment as well. And I guess that's a result of Brexit.
Yeah, again, I don't remember that being mentioned in the discussions. I'll park it there. I won't say any more on Brexit, but I was thinking like customs duty. Will no one think of the customs duty? But yeah, I guess a little bit of a side note on the whole thing. Um, I guess moving on a little bit, then you've talked about how you first made your way into PwC and then through the training contract. And now you're managing director of your own firm. And if I've done my sums right, this is your eighth year, I think. So how did you get from A to B? How did that sort of work?
Well, I always, even when I first started out at PwC, I always wanted to be self-employed because of the background that I'd come from, that all my family friends, my husband's always been self-employed. In fact, I don't think he's ever had a job. I think his first job was selling mod badges to the mods at the seafront in Scarborough when he was about 12 years old. And that's the type of family and friends and everybody that I'm amongst. So I've always wanted to be self-employed. Um, and to be honest, it took a long time for me to have the guts to do it because it's a tough thing to do. But after I worked for three of the big four, then I worked for a small boutique we did a lot of litigation and tribunal appeals. Then I worked for a while on a helpline where my technical knowledge went through the roof because you was answering 30 calls a day, answering questions, and you had to be like just so quick, find the notice, talk to the accountant, and that was really good for my technical knowledge. And then I moved from there to a mid-tier accountancy firm where I set up their VAT department. And that went really well, and I loved working there, but the commute was hideous. So I had to commute on the M6, the M40 in the Midlands, and sometimes it took me 3 hours to get home and things, and it was only a 40-mile journey. And I thought I lasted about 18 months, and I was like, I just can't cope with this commute. So I
Yeah.
found another job doing the same thing, setting up another VAT department, but it was a 15-minute journey to work, which was fantastic.
Oh, much better.
Um, Much better. But then after successfully setting up two VAT departments, I thought, why am I doing this for other people? Why don't I do what I originally always wanted to do? And set my own business up. So I did. And I remember the first day I sat in front of my computer and I didn't have one client to my name. And I just sat there and thought, right, God, what am I going to do? How is this going to work? Like I say, I throw myself in at the deep end. And then so I wrote an email, which I now refer to it as my begging letter. And basically, it was a nice email saying, "Hello, I'm Jane Deeks. I've set up a VAT department. This is what I can do for you. Would you like to have a coffee?" And I just started Googling and finding local accountancy firms in the area, sending out my begging letter. And lo and behold, people was coming back going, "Yeah, I'd love to have a coffee or come around the office. Yeah, that's great." And it just built up from there. And now we're doing really well. We're very busy. I've got another VAT advisor that works with me, Lewis. He started coming up 2 years ago now, and so September will be his second year. We did have another office manager as well, but she left, and me and Lewis have managed to soak up her workload, so we've not had to re-employ just yet. But no, it's really busy, and I'm trying to grow the business more as well, which I'm really enjoying doing.
Brilliant. And how, in terms of that process as well, I'm really interested. You start up when it's you. At what point do you start bringing other people in as well and thinking, okay, right, there's enough now to kind
Mm.
of start scaling that beyond your own practice?
Yeah, so I found that really scary because when you've only got you to look after, you've only got to pay your wages. Hopefully, I pay them every week because I've got bills to pay. But if you've then you're responsible for paying someone else's wages, it gets a bit scary. So, but eventually, I realised I was so busy and stressed because I was doing all the admin work as well as the advisory work. I realised I'm going to have to take on some kind of virtual assistant or some kind of assistant. And then, so I did, took on somebody part-time and they took a lot of the admin side of things out of it for me, which freed me up, which actually was allowed, I could breathe then, which that was fantastic. And she worked for me for 2 or 3 years, might have even been 4 years actually. But then 2 years ago, I thought I'm now at the point where Lolita's dealing with the admin stuff. Jane's now getting overwhelmed with all the advisory work. So I actually need someone who can come in and do advisory work as well. So I put one advert on LinkedIn, just a
Mm,
post, a photograph saying help, manager level VAT consultant wanted. And I got an inquiry from Lewis, who works with me now, and we had lunch and we got on really well. And I thought, oh, he's going to be great. So had a second interview and I offered him the job, and he accepted. So when it come to as well, finding somebody, it was scary as well then, because obviously I've got to pay his wages now as well as the Lolita's wages, and is the money going to keep coming in? But obviously it did, and it built up, and me and Lewis get on really well. But yeah, I was really lucky because I know I speak to people and they say, like, oh, we've been trying to vet advisor for over 12 months now and we can't find
mm,
anybody. And so I was really lucky that I just put this one advert out and someone seen it and he was the right person. And yeah, he had a few years of VAT behind him, but he was a bit more compliancy and had a bit of
mm,
advisory. But like I'm the type, because I like to be chucked in at the deep end. I did tell him before he even accepted the job, you will be chucked in at the deep end. I'll be there to help you. I'm very happy, anytime you need me, shout me. But I won't be mollycoddling you and I won't be
yeah.
micromanaging you. And he's actually done really, really well. And we get on really well. And I think he likes being left to his own devices, but he knows I'm there to support him when necessary, which is good.
That sounds good. And is there any particular sort of what am I trying to say, attribute that has made that work really well then? Is it, you mentioned he had a compliance background and now doing more advisory. Was there something then in particular that, his approach to work or, and
Yeah.
Lewis, if you're watching, hopefully this is okay. Um, but what helped to make that work? How did that progression?
Yeah,
Um,
well, I think he'd done a bit of advisory at his other firms, and he'd also prior to that he'd worked in insolvency, which is always a nice skill to have because when we deal with quite a few insolvency practitioners, and the VAT rules are quite quirky, so that was good. He's also done a bit of customs duty, and I think he's good that he can put his hand to anything. I'm hectic, in case you haven't noticed. I'll talk for England, and I'm quite an hectic person. Lewis is very calm, doesn't speak much, so I think that's why we complement each other because we're so opposite.
oh, that's amazing though. It's like it was meant to be that they sort of got your team together.
Yes.
And is that you mentioned as well growing the business further? Have you got specific plans around that at the moment, or is it just
Yeah,
that
well, yeah, well,
overall?
I am trying. Yes, I'm trying, and I would like to get to a position where we need to employ another VAT advisor, and I would like to keep growing it. But yeah, at the minute, we're plodding along at the moment. Yeah, and it is we're doing some good work. We've got a SEO lady for the website. She's done fantastic over the last 12 months because we only got the odd one or two queries through the website, and now we get like 30, 20 or 30 a month now. So that's really good. And she's got more plans to help that go as well. I'm just what's the word? I'm holding that up at the minute because I've got all these things I need to review for her. But yeah, we'll get them done soon. And so keep building the website.
And I do think you're being a tiny bit modest as well when you say you're just kind of plodding along. I've seen you at a couple of award ceremonies over the past, stalking your social media, looking at your TikTok and your LinkedIn. I've seen some very beautiful dresses, some very nice award ceremonies.
Ah, thank you. Yeah, so we won the Niche Firm of the Year Award 2026 for the Yorkshire Accountancy Awards, which was fantastic. And yeah, that was a really proud moment, and I was absolutely surprised. It was great to be nominated. I'm always happy that I get nominated because I think that's a credit to everybody who gets nominated. It's fantastic, but to win was like crazy. Yeah, I've got
You
my
got it.
award here.
Oh, amazing.
And then we was nominated for the best indirect tax team at the Tollies Awards in 2026, as we was in 2024 as well. But both times I've lost to PwC. But that makes me laugh because I always think it's like I started at PwC, now I keep losing to them.
Yeah.
So I've declared that I'm coming back next year and I'm gonna beat PwC.
2027 will be the year.
That's
We'll
right.
manifest it. 2027 will be the year. Oh, and I guess around that point as well, in terms of who you work with in any client careers, this is a bit of a interesting segue. I'm not sure it's really worked, but I'll go with it. Um,
Mhm.
any particularly interesting kind of client queries you had? Because you mentioned the pig earlier and getting to grips with all kinds of weird and wonderful things that perhaps you didn't know existed in this world. Have there been any other sort of interesting client projects or particular products that someone's come to you and said, "What do I do with this?"
Yeah. So yeah, there's always something weird and wonderful and interesting, but one that particularly stood out was a company that got in touch with us to ask us if we could provide the VAT liability of talking gravestones. And
Explain talking gravestone.
so this company, it was an American company, which I think would probably be obvious because the Americans like these crazy things, don't they? But basically, you could record a message to anyone who visits your grave before you
Hmm.
pass away, and then they would incorporate this into a gravestone. And then when anybody walked close enough to your grave, you'd be like, "Hello, it's Jane here. How are you doing? Thanks for coming to see me. I hope you don't want that advice."
It's 20%.
Don't ask
Yeah.
me what the liability of that was. I can't remember. It was years ago, but it was probably 15 years ago, but it really stuck with me. And I think they might have actually come into existence. I think if we actually Google
Hmm.
it, they probably are a thing in America now. But
I'm
yeah,
definitely looking that up.
yeah, we went to oh, where did we go? New Orleans. Yeah, New Orleans in January on holiday. And there's a big thing about graveyards there. So
Hmm.
you can go on these tours around graveyards, but when you actually look at the graveyard, they're amazing because there's lots of water at New Orleans. They can't bury the dead, so they have to build tombstones. So all these graveyards are huge with all these massive, beautiful tombstones, and it does look like an amazing tour. But none of my friends was very interested. There was only me that wanted to go on the ghost tour and the graveyard tour.
Now that just walking close to each headstone just to see if they start
Yeah.
chatting. Is there anyone there? No? Okay, we'll move on. No, definitely an interesting one. And I think that's oh, I think I've just seen on our chat found a video about the talking gravestones, so I will check that out.
They
Thank you
are.
very much for the link on that. I have to look at that one afterwards. Um, Circling back a tiny bit and thinking about what was happening 8 years ago when you started up your firm, or to be more precise, what happened a couple of years afterwards, because we had, it seems like a distant memory now, but COVID. And how did you find that sort of being in the first couple of years of trading with your new firm and then COVID hitting? Did it impact you? Was it?
Yeah, so I started in October 2018, and I think was COVID to March 2019 or
I
March 20?
think 2020,
Okay.
but
So
yeah,
yeah,
fairly soon afterwards.
yeah, it weren't too long afterwards, and yeah, and I'd built the business nice, and I was earning enough money to pay all the bills and a little bit of spending money. I was quite happy. And then when COVID hit, I just thought, oh my God, nobody's going to want, last thing on anybody's mind is going to be VAT. It's the last thing anyone will be interested in. And it was quiet for a few weeks. And then I got a message from a recruitment agent saying the manager of 22 years at Arriva PLC's resigned and they're trying to find someone to take his place. So I was like, well, I'm not interested in a job. I've got my own business, but I'd happily stand in temporarily while they find somebody new, as long as I can continue running my business alongside. So they agreed to that. So then they didn't want me to work as a consultant though, so they took me on as an employee. So for 6 months, I worked full time for Arriva and thought, phew, that's lucky.
Mm.
And then my business just went bush. Everybody was that advice. I think people had because their day job had stopped, then they was catching up on things that they'd never had time to catch up on before. So then I started getting loads of inquiries. So I was working really, really hard. And pretty much after 6 months, I had to say to Ariva, they still hadn't found anyone. I said, can't carry on full time because I'm so busy. So I reduced my days to 3 days a week and carried on for another 3 months with Ariva before they got another person in temporarily because I just said I can't do any more after 9 months. But that was fantastic. I mean, to work for a big PLC like Arriva and to learn all about how the train companies and the bus companies in the UK all work was really good.
Mm.
I also did quite a bit of international work with their buses in different countries and found out the story about when Arriva decided to introduce bendy buses into Malta. And Malta being very tiny roads and buildings, got a few of them stuck and it didn't work. And it was a big laughing stock actually. So that wasn't a very good idea. And I don't know whose decision that was, but I think he ought to have probably drove a bus once himself to figure out before he decided where to
It
pull.
wouldn't go. Oh dear.
No, they was getting stuck. It was terrible. Yeah, so that was really good. Yeah, and then my business grew ever so well in COVID, and then I left Ariva, and then just carried on doing my business, and it's just gone strength from strength. So I was
Mm.
probably lucky, really. As for my husband, he was in the catering industry, so he was just his business just quit,
Mm.
stop. So it was good that one of us could earn some money.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something there about two buses coming at once as well. That'll probably park that one. And both those puns were probably intended. I thought about it too much. But just before we finish up, I was wondering if you were to go back in time to Jane, who's studying at night school to get her GCSEs, then going to college to do her A levels, what advice would you give yourself, given what you know now? Or put it another way, someone who's coming in, what advice would you give them?
Um, well, I'll, what I it's probably more of a personal thing, so I suppose it depends on the person. I was very I wasn't used to being told what to do. Suppose coming from a family background where you work with your family, you haven't got someone who's a boss. I mean, your mum and dad tell you what to do, that's different. You haven't got someone who's a boss who's giving you instructions and directions and then someone commenting on your work and telling you you can do this better and you can do that better. So I found it very difficult when I started work to be told what to do by people. And when we had appraisals, if I'd done anything they weren't happy with, I always took it personally. And I always got upset with myself because I had to do it better. Why did I not do it better? I should have done it better, which was silly. How am I supposed to know? I'm brand new at this job. I've got a bit more of a tougher skin now, but I'd probably say, just accept that if you're an employee, you do as the boss tells you, and don't take anything personally when it comes to your appraisals. Take it as it should be taken, which is constructive criticism, and yeah, and you'll go far. I mean, I remember once one of the managers at PwC, and I was just started. I think we started in September. It was probably about December, and he was moving his desk, and he wanted me to empty these filing cabinets of all these files and move them to his new desk, to the filing cabinets by his new desk. And I said no. And he was like, "What?" I went, "I'm not doing that. I've come here as a graduate trainee to learn about VAT. I haven't come here to be your skivvy."
Or in the
And,
days when we had files and filing cabinets and
the director of the office, the VAT director of the office, called me into her office and said, "Jane, Gordon's asked you to do something. You've got to do it." I said, "Well, I'm not. That's not what I'm here for. That's not my part of my contract, and I'm not doing it." Anyway, I didn't do it. And as it happened, me and Gordon did end up getting on really well. We had a bit of a love-hate relationship. We ended up getting on really well. And I've stayed in contact with him all these years, 20, 27, 28 years. The last time I seen him, he was on his third marriage. And I'm not even sure if he's still alive now. He's probably might be. He might have a talking gravestone somewhere. He's that old.
just keep wandering up to them.
But yeah, yeah, if I could go back, I would have been
Mm.
more, I would have done as I was told a bit more. And I would have also not got upset by constructive criticism. Because I always thought people was having a go at me, but there wasn't. They was just trying to teach me the right way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, and that's something which definitely resonates with me as well because I always saw people, if they'd been there even 3 years, 5 years, they were talking this whole new tax language, and I was like, if they say something, then I must have done something, terribly wrong, or not that. Yes, they've got that experience, and they're just trying to help you up as well.
Mm.
Most
Yeah.
of the time. No, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jane. It's been lovely chatting to you. A few giggles along the way as well.
Good. Good.
And giving us an insight. If people want to get in touch with you, what is the best way that they can do that?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I think I'm on TikTok as well. My website is Deeks' VAT Consultancy, so my email address, phone number's on there. There's also a form on there if you want to just directly contact Deeks' VAT Consultancy. And yeah, and I'm always up for a chat, and I like to think I can make VAT more entertaining than people think it is.